If it happened to you, you'd sue too. But then again, you're not a piglet. Hi, I'm Scott Ott, and this episode of Right Angle with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green is brought to you by the members at BillWhittle.com. And make sure you check the description below. We're doing a cruise in May of 2020, and we'd like you to come along. Check it out in the description. Guys, this is kind of a shocking story out of Germany, Berlin to be specific. There are a group of piglets, specifically male baby pigs, that are suing because they don't think it's right that they should be castrated. And of course, the alternative argument to this is that, well, if we don't castrate the boars, the little baby boars, that the meat will suffer from something called Boar-Taint, a phrase that no one should ever have to hear, and I'm sorry that you had to. Stephen Green, this is, of course, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, is behind this lawsuit.
Of course.
And this is the argument that they made. Under German law, animals cannot be harmed without a reasonable explanation. So they say this, PETA makes this statement: the castration of piglets with or without anesthesia is in clear violation of this, giving Germany's male piglets only one option: to sue for the enforcement of their rights in court. Steve, are you going to be the one who steps up and tells the little piglets that they don't have the right to sue?
Screw these PETA guys. I'm not kidding. They can go to hell. Listen, when we were talking about this backstage, it was kind of cute, but you were going into a little more detail here. It just really occurred to me what's going on. PETA doesn't give a damn about animals. If you know how many animals they euthanize every year, that PETA does every year, it's an obscene, absurd number that I can't even remember. They don't give a damn about animals. They should be encouraging spaying and neutering of animals, period. Now, listen, I'm a serious animal lover. I grew up with dogs and cats. I had cats when I was single, only because I couldn't have dogs because my single lifestyle wasn't exactly conducive to having a dog. So I, disappear out of town for 3 days chasing some girl. So I had cats then. Now, as a family man, I've got 3 dogs. We've had 4 total. We lost one to cancer a few years back. I love these dogs like crazy. I'm such a dog lover. I tend to judge people by their dogs more than I judge them by their kids. Kids have their own little personalities. You never know how those little guys are going to turn out. But except for certain very aggressive breeds or certain very tiny breeds that are afraid of their own shadows, dogs react to people the way they've been trained to by their owners. And it's the way they are. The relationship between man and dog is probably the most successful interspecies cooperation in all of history, and it's a wonderful, beautiful thing. And I love animals, and I love the fact that I can have 3 of them at the same time who are all so wonderful individually and collectively. So let's put that aside. What PETA is trying to do here, let me finish my thought from earlier. PETA doesn't love animals. They hate humanity. And what they're trying to do here is to insert just another wedge in between animals and humanity, or rather, I should say, humanity and our ability to eat and sustain ourselves. They don't care about the damn pigs. I probably care more about the pigs than they do. What they're trying to do is to actually, if I had to guess, is to actually introduce Boar-Taint by law into the German pork supply, so the Germans will stop eating pork, and that's one less way for humans to enjoy and sustain themselves. That's what PETA is about. This isn't about protecting piglets. It's not even about the spectacle that they're going to create in court, and they love creating the spectacle. It's about creating one more fissure between humanity and the rest of the world because they just hate us.
Bill Whittle, there's a lawyer, Cornelia Zyme, who is supporting PETA in representing these piglets in court. And she says this: non-human entities like companies and associations have legal personhood. So why not animals too? A few years ago, Bill, there was a macaque, which is a kind of a monkey that actually filed suit. And once again, PETA was involved because he took a selfie of himself with a wildlife photographer's camera. It went viral and, of course, generated income. So shouldn't the macaque have access to that income stream? What is the argument against saying that these individuals, somewhat sentient beings, should have legal rights and have a way to stand up for themselves in a court of law?
The fact that we just swallowed the entire premise is just absolutely astonishing to me. The pigs didn't sue anybody. Okay. The pigs didn't bring a lawsuit, and neither did the monkey. They did not sue anybody. Humans sued other humans claiming to represent these animals, but the pigs didn't sue anybody unless I see, signed depositions with little cloven hoof marks there in all different sizes and different shapes from the different signatures. Until I see that, I'm not going to believe it. And as far as the monkey's concerned, I wonder if he ordered that camera on Amazon by himself. In any event, this whole thing is a great example of how the left will set up the argument in such a way that you're already at a massive disadvantage when you start to argue with them. Because if you accept the premise that pigs are suing for their security and their right not to be mutilated, if you want to start there, then that means people who disagree with this nonsense are in favor of harming animals and torturing them and doing all the rest of it. It's not the pigs that are suing. The pigs aren't suing anybody because they're pigs. Some human is suing other humans for a reason that is applicable only to humans. And so the pigs are simply a fig leaf. And that's where you need to basically just start all over again and find out what they want. I don't think it's either ethical or wise for me to go through the rest of this segment without using the words Boar-Taint. But when Steve was mentioning that the idea of Boar-Taint might be intentional so that people would eat less pork in Germany, I thought, yeah, I wonder if there's any noticeable segments of that population that would be in favor of this kind of ban on pork.
Recent imports to the population, perhaps?
Yeah, just speculating. The tragedy here is that this kind of histrionics can sometimes put us on the wrong side of issues in terms of just the morality of it. If you're going to eat the pigs and stuff and you're growing them, then the gelding of them is not a particularly different outcome. But I do think that while I obviously don't think, look, if you want to say that a pig has legal rights and a chimp has legal rights, where do you stop? Do mice have legal rights? Do bacteria have legal rights? There's no stopping on this line. Legal rights are products of a law system created by humans and so on. The point I was trying to make is when you do this kind of charlatanism, you can not only desensitize people, but also put them in opposition to something that sometimes is worth talking about. Animal cruelty is something I just don't think should be tolerated, and I don't think it should be tolerated out of the moral decency of the human beings involved with it. It's not that the pigs or the bacteria or anything else have legal rights. It's just that as civilized people, we should not want to see animals suffering for reasons, really any reason. So look, as far as the pigs are concerned, this operation is no different than the operation that dogs and cats undergo all the time in spaying and neutering. We don't have any hesitation about having our animals fixed. You cannot adopt an animal at least from Los Angeles. You cannot adopt an animal unless that animal has already been altered, is the term they use. And so if it's, as Steve says, we love our dogs, we love our cats, we love our house pets. If we're willing to put our house pets through that, then it doesn't seem to me to be that kind of a crime against decency that it's going to determine this kind of thing. I think the only place I think you really should draw the line in terms of abuse is asking some serious questions about Michelle Obama, and deciding if this kind of thing is ethical when performed on her husband. Other than that, I think we should just pretty much understand what's going on here and leave it alone.
Hey, Scott, can I say just one last thing very, very quickly? Because I forgot the most important thing that I wanted to say. People are happy, healthier, and live longer when they have a pet. Get yourself a dog, get yourself a cat, and get them spayed or neutered, please. You'll be happier. So will they.
And if you want to call pigs in Germany, you want to say, sue me?
Oh, and get a rescue dog or cat. There are plenty of them out there, and they're all wonderful, looking for a forever home.
I'm still recovering from Bill's comment about the Obamas and wondering if there's any risk of Boar-Taint.
8 years of that, Scott. We had 8 years of that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as a teenager, I worked on a hog farm. It was a small operation, a couple of hundred hogs, and we had several dozen head of cattle and some chickens, and we did everything on that farm that you would expect a farmer would need to do, including this procedure that needed to be done to the male piglets for two reasons. Number one, because of the aforementioned Boar-Taint, the effect that it has on the meat, but also because if you're running a small farm, you can't have a bunch of impregnators running around among your sows. They have to choose which hogs are going to be the servicing boars on the farm. And so that at any given time, there was only one, and that's this farm, only one or two boar hogs that were able to impregnate the sows. Having done this procedure and having helped the farmer to do it to hogs, it's not pleasant. But that's not the argument here. The argument here isn't whether or not this actually hurts. I mean, after all, you're raising these animals for slaughter. That's going to hurt a little bit too. And so I agree with Bill and Steve. The argument here really has more to do with PETA and what they're trying to accomplish and with what it says about us. And, perhaps, Stephen, this immigrant argument that you're making here, perhaps the retaliation for the war on terror is now the war on bacon. This could be the backlash that we're getting here.
We'll fight to the death on this one.
That's right.
They have no idea what's coming.
Nope.
But I guess I would say this, regardless of this lawsuit. If you're in the farming business, farmers know that it's in their best interest to do everything to safeguard the health of the animals on their farm for as long as those animals are with them on that farm. The farmers, at least the ones that I worked with, were not going out of their way to inflict additional harm on anybody. Believe it or not, there is also, in some countries, they are already using a vaccine that requires 2 injections that allegedly eliminates Boar-Taint. At this stage in development, it's still relatively expensive for widespread use, but like everything else, as free markets develop things like this, it'll drive the cost down. And there will probably come a day in the not too distant future where it's unnecessary to do a surgical procedure on piglets to address this issue. Nice. There are some things that seem absurd to us today that if you had said them 30 years ago, my attorney, an attorney is going to court to represent a pig, would have seemed crazy back then. And now just seems like kind of a normal thing. Well, of course, somebody has to represent the pig. He doesn't, he can't, and he can't even pay for the attorney. It's got to be pro bono work. It ridicules the entire system of justice to start applying it this way. And I think ultimately, while PETA may not intentionally be aiming for this goal, I think many on the left are. They more and more, they want to show that justice is just a human construct, and that if you expand it like this to cover all living creatures or even all so-called sentient creatures, then it quickly becomes ridiculous. And therefore, when you no longer have a legitimate system of justice, then the law is whatever we say it is. And that everybody gets to make up their own mind about what should constitute the law. I know this seems like a strange, slippery slope argument, but these people spend a lot of money and have many, many full-time staffers completely devoted to these kinds of public relations exercises in order to decrease the trust in the fidelity of a system of justice.
Yep.
Germany is just the start. This will quickly spread across the ocean. I predict that it will come ashore somewhere off the coast of California, and you will quickly find these same kind of cases essentially rising up through the federal judiciary to the Supreme Court. I think it hurts us all. And so I think you can have both arguments. You can say this is a ridiculous action on the part of PETA to allegedly represent these piglets in the court of law. And you can say, I think people ought to do everything they can to reduce the suffering of animals, even in the farming process. And I think both of those are logical and compassionate and conservative positions. And we don't need to separate conservatism from compassion. It is naturally a component thereof. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making this possible. And don't forget about the Strato Cruise. You can find out more about that at BillWhittleCruise.com. Join us in May 2020 out on the sea to engage in these kind of conversations and to get to know us personally.